everything in relation to Supreme Lord, who sees all the living entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything or any being.
Wow. So that would be a very good result, wouldn't it be, of us progressing spiritually, is that we can come to this point where we don't hate anything. Because this is a massive problem in modern society. There's so much hatred. People, isn't it? We tend materialistically, if someone has a different skin color, we may hate them. If they have a different religion, we may hate them, isn't it? Hindus and Muslims, right? There's so much hatred, and between even within different, within one religion, different groups, like different Christian groups, like Protestants and Catholics, they hate each other, and even different countries. There may be some, like, of course, India and Pakistan. That's a big one. A lot of hatred between India and Pakistan. So there's so much hate. But now it's even progressing because people are becoming so godless and so much more materialistic. Then all the good qualities are going out the window, and all these bad qualities are developing. It's even coming to the point now where there's even hatred within the families, even within one family, the boyfriend hates the girlfriend, or the husband hates the wife, or the parents hate the kids, or the kids hate the parents, or even we have now self-hate, and then we hate ourselves, and so, there's some people that torture themselves. Have you heard about that? Where people burn, they put light cigarettes, and burn the cigarette into their body, and even use a knife and slit their wrists, slit their arms. I've seen people, actually one girl, young Aussie girl, came to work in the bhakti tree. This is maybe a couple of years ago. She came to do some work there. And she was a young girl, and one day, it was obviously a hot day, she took her jumper off, and so she's just got a short sleeve shirt on. And I saw, like, it must have been about 50 marks all down her arm, from the top of her arm to the bottom of the arm. I thought, oh, maybe it's some tattoo or something like that, or I wasn't sure. And I asked Brett, what because he's the one that organised the girl to come. So he interviewed her or whatever like that. And he said, no, she has cut herself on different occasions. It's a particular phenomena that's happening more and more, especially amongst the young people, where they're so confused and they're so unhappy, and they come to the point where they hate themselves, and they just torture their own bodies. So the idea is, what I'm saying is that, now that's a big problem with a godless life, is that we develop all these negative emotions like lust and greed and anger and hatred and envy and pride and so many things. But one of the benefits of a God consciousness, a spiritual life, is that these emotions become purified. So instead of having lust, we end up with love. And instead of like anger, also we start to see everyone as a friend, that see everyone in a friendly way, and all these negative aspects of the emotions go away. So that's a very positive, worthwhile thing. Obviously, some people think, oh, there's no real tangible value of spiritual practice or God consciousness, religious life. But I mean, isn't that so wonderful? If we can get free ourselves from hatred and help others to do that's something that even materialistic people would recognize as a very valuable contribution. I know even more than 40 years ago, Prabhupada talked with a police person, about how to solve crime. And Prabhupada was firmly convinced that through Krishna consciousness, we can reduce crime. And I mean, everyone would accept that that's very valuable. If we could have a society where we can reduce crime, that's a very good contribution. So some people think, oh, you Hare Krishnas, you're like just wasting your time chanting Hare Krishna and all this stuff. And why don't you get a job? Often we hear that, if you see chanting on the street, the Hare Krishnas, and people will call out, why don't you get a job? Get a job, do something useful. But, people don't realize that, if someone can be Krishna conscious and they chant Hare Krishna, then they're going to give up all these bad habits like being violent and angry and stealing and taking drugs and being intoxicated and doing crazy things. And of course, also many times, why do people get angry is because they're intoxicated. When they're intoxicated, when they get drunk, they get angry and everything. But like for us, we come to Krishna consciousness, that's the first thing we stop. We don't drink anymore. We're never intoxicated. So we're always sober. So if we're always sober and we're not intoxicated, then straight from that also is less chance of us getting angry and violent and killing people and everything like that. And then on top of that, like it's indicating here, you start to see differently. That's what this verse is talking about, a different way of seeing things. That you start to see God everywhere, and you start to see that there's a soul everywhere. And then of course that hatred goes away. Because one of the reasons why I have so much hatred is because think I am one person, you're another person, and we're different. And then I don't like you because you're different than me. But with a spiritual vision, you see that we're all the same. We're all souls. I mean, the dress is different. The body's like a dress, but the soul within, we're all the same. Means we're all part of God. So in that way, spiritually, we're all the same. We are individuals. So, I'm an individual different from you, and you're also an individual different from me. We're not the same person, because I don't know what you're thinking, and you don't know what I'm thinking. So we definitely have a different consciousness. But we're the same in the sense that we come from the same source. We have the same Father, Krishna. God. God is our Father. We're all His children. So we're all the same in the sense that we're all brothers and sisters, that we all come from the same source. We have the same Father. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah, definitely it makes sense. Yeah, and yeah, and also the hatred you talked about. So much. We basically. I think there's the example you gave. People try to please other people in the society. It's more like your happiness depends on somebody else, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah. Yeah.
that's where it comes. And the more we are going more towards it, social media, internet, this is creating havoc. The cases have increased, isn't it? So
Yeah.
yeah, and I think it's more when you try to get happiness from somebody else, that's not possible. Happiness is inside,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That's our quality.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is,
internal.
when the other person's not giving you happiness anymore, then you get angry,
That's
because
right.
that's when anger comes. See, anger is a result of frustration and fulfillment of our desires. So
Yes.
actually, in Sanskrit we say krodha. Krodha means anger. So that krodha, the source of krodha, is actually calm, is our desires. You have a desire. When you don't get what you want, that's when you become angry. I want something, I'm not getting it, then I become angry. So what's the secret then? Knowing that, what's the secret of removing the anger? You can't wait till the anger to come and then remove it. It's too late. Once you're already angry, it says that in the Bhagavad Gita, that once you get angry, you lose your memory, you lose your intelligence. It's lost. That's chapter 2, text 63. So it says that once you're already angry, it's too late to deal with it. You've lost your intelligence, you've lost your memory. and you can't think properly when you're already angry. The secret of removing the anger is to reduce the material desires. And that's what we learn from Krishna and the acharyas. If you reduce your material desires, if you don't have material desires, then there's nothing that can turn into anger, because anger comes from a unfulfilled or frustrated desires. I really want this object and I'm not getting it. And then you get so angry, I want this and I can't have it. It's like a kid, right? From your kids, they really want, their iPad or whatever. And if you don't give it to them, then
That's
they
true.
go crazy, isn't it? So when you don't get what you want, you become angry. But the secret is of removing the anger that you don't want anything. And how is it possible that you don't want anything? Is because, like you're saying, you get the inner happiness. You're so satisfied in your loving relationship with the Lord, you're completely satisfied. And then externally, you don't want anything external anymore, because everything you need is coming from the internal. So we see that in the lives of devotees. A devotee can live in a palace, obviously, and he's happy, obviously. But the same devotee can live in a shack, in a hut, a kutir, and he's happy. The same devotee can live under a tree if he had to, and he'd be happy. So a devotee could eat a 10-course meal and he's happy. And the devotee could eat just rice and dal bhat, and he's happy. It doesn't matter whether there's a little bit or a lot. He just accepts whatever comes easily, just accepts that. How is it possible to act in that way, to always be satisfied externally with what you're getting? Is because already you're full. You're full already inside. It's like your cup. Your cup is already full to the brim. So there's nothing more that you possibly can want. And there's one beautiful verse in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, text 20 to 23. It's 3 verses together, and it says that experiencing that the devotee thinks there is nothing more than this. The devotee feels so much happiness within that the devotee thinks, experiencing that unlimited bliss from his Krishna consciousness, that he thinks there's nothing more than this. It means it's the pinnacle of happiness. You can't go any higher. There's nothing. If you add $1 million to that, is nothing. If you add the latest car, the latest phone, whatever, it doesn't change that at all, because you're already on the pinnacle. Your battery is already 100%. There's nothing more you can put in. You're already completely full like that. So that's the amazing experience of someone on that high level of spirituality, that they're overflowing with happiness. So there's nothing more that they require. There's nothing more that they need. And any kind of external comings and goings is really insignificant, and there's no interest in it. And you just accept whatever comes, whatever goes. You're not attached to anything, and just always happy, always satisfied. And that's the secret to real peace and real happiness, and removing, like I said, anger and all these things. But anger has to be dealt with at that point, that we have to deal with our material desires. And the only way to stop the material desires is you replace it with spiritual desires. If you don't have an internal relationship with God, then if you try to stop the desires for money and women and wealth, and it's not going to work. It doesn't work. And there's many, even yogis in that have tried to stop their desires, and it's just led to great difficulty and disappointment. Of course, we have great examples. Some of them you would know, like Vishvamitra.
Yes.
Vishvamitra Muni. He tried to become a great yogi and stop his desires, but he actually got angry so many times. If you look at the number of times that Vishvamitra became angry, it's too many times. And as soon as someone interfered with his tapasya, his austerities and meditation, he would get very angry. Like Indra would send the apsaras. Indra would send the apsaras to disturb his tapasya. Because Indra was afraid that Vishwamitra would get more punya and be eligible to take over his position as Indra. So Indra was very. See, Indra's problem is he is very insecure, and becomes very jealous because he doesn't want to lose his position as Indra, king of heaven. So if anyone else starts to become very elevated, he gets worried that maybe I'm going to lose my job. So what he will do is try to pull that person down. So he usually sends the apsaras to make that person give up his meditation and become lusty. And then when the yogi becomes lusty, then he loses his punya, and then Indra feels better that he's got no competition. Because materially, that's the way people think. You're always thinking, and you'd know this from the workforce, and that people are always very competitive, isn't it? They're always thinking, that the people below me are trying to come up and they're going to take my job. And also you're worried about, people that are on the same level as you, they're your equals, rivals. They're your rivals. And there's some rivalry there, and then there's competition. So it's very competitive. And one person is always trying to get above someone else. And then when you get above, and you try to push the other person down. So that's materialistic life. Even in the swarga, even in the heavens, that same psychology is there. So it creates a lot of problems. But Vishwamitra, he would get so angry when these apsaras come, and Indra is trying to cause him problems and so many things, and he would curse or like burn to ashes. Sometimes the yoga is so powerful, just if they look at you with the eyes, you just turn into ash. You just turn, your whole body catches fire, you turn into ash. But the problem is with that, as soon as the yogi gets angry, he loses the punya. The punya goes down. You've used up your punya. So this is the thing, So we see just trying to control the desires is not very practical, because we're a conscious being. There's no off switch. You can't. Have you ever seen for your kids also? Have you seen off button? It would be very good if there was off button.
It's inbuilt and it keeps going. Yeah,
it keeps going. Even when the body goes to sleep, it keeps going. And the mind, right? Dreaming. You're dreaming. The 24/7. It's on. Either the body is on, or even if the body's off, but the mind is on. Mind is always on. What is in the mind is desires. So the desires are 24/7 desires. How are you going to turn it off? So people try to turn it off, but it's very difficult and very frustrating, because it's the nature of the soul. We're always on. We're eternal, and we're eternally conscious. You can't turn off the consciousness you can't become a stone. You can't turn a soul into a stone, and means like it's like dumb and doesn't think anything. So you can't stop thinking. So what we try to do, which is very practical, is instead of thinking materialistically, means for me, what can I get for me, for my pleasure, we change the central point. Now I'm going to think, what can I do to please Krishna? Let me make money for Krishna. Let me set up a business for Krishna. Let me build a house for Krishna. So all those desires are going. Let me try to distribute Bhagavad Gitas for all these ignorant people. How can I and then you're thinking, how can I distribute Bhagavad Gita? Or Isopanisad. How can I, get other people to hear this knowledge of Isopanisad or Bhagavad Gita, so then they can become happy like I'm becoming happy by understanding this, other people. So you start to think in those ways. It means connected to Krishna. So you're not stopping desire, but you're changing the nature of the desire. It's not material desire anymore. It's a spiritual desire. It means it's centered around Krishna, not around me. Material desire means it's centered around me, and spiritual desire means it's centered around Krishna. So in that way, you're still desiring 24/7, but just the central point is different. But that makes a massive difference, and that will not lead to anger,
Mm.
because that anger only comes when our desires for my enjoyment is frustrated.
So good. Yeah, it's basically replacing. In a nutshell, you are
Yeah,
basically removing all the material desire and replacing it with the spiritual desires.
yeah,
So
yeah,
basically,
yeah.
as desires, as you said, desire can't be switched off. You cannot switch it
Can
off. You
yeah,
can only replace it. So
yeah,
replacing as the Vedas said, or Gita or Isha Upanishad saying, is that you replace it with the spiritual desires rather
yeah,
than.
yeah. And that's very natural, that's very practical, and it's very sustainable. Whereas if you try to turn off the desire, that's very unnatural, very not practical, and not sustainable at all. You can't last. And like you see that, like in Buddhists, because that's the Buddhist process. You have to stop desires. And they don't. There's no spiritual concept in their philosophy. There's no soul. There's no God. So their idea, you just have to turn everything off. But that's very tough, and to actually achieve that is not possible. So they may go to some way up, but then they not possible to maintain that. Not possible to maintain that. And also the Mayavad path, they also try to do that. They also try to do that. And but yeah, also as big failure. So this is a much more natural and happy path.
Mm.
So yeah, this is talking about the how the topmost transcendentalists, topmost spiritualists, how they're seeing. This is the vision. Of course, we normally see with our eyes. You see, oh, there's a black person, there's a white person, there's a monkey, there's an elephant, there's a cow, and like that says so many things. But here it's saying that the topmost devotee, he sees everything in relationship to the Supreme Lord. So means there's a picture of this showing this in the Bhagavad Gita. You'll see if you look in the pictures in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a picture where the devotee is looking around him and he's seeing, and you'll see in the picture there's a picture of a man and there's a picture of a cow, a picture of an elephant, picture of a dog. But within that form, that body, there's the Paramatma. There's a picture of the Paramatma. So that's indicating this, that the topmost devotee, he doesn't just see, oh, this is a black person, this is a white person, this is a cow, this is a dog. He sees there's God. God is there. There's God over there. There's God there. There's God there. There's God there. There's God there. There's Krishna, 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 Krishna. So within the tree, he sees Krishna. Within the cow, within the dog, within the person, he's seeing Krishna. So he sees Krishna everywhere. And so he's seeing God everywhere. And he's also seeing that that within the dog, within the cow, the elephant, the person is the Atma, the Jivatma, the soul, and that all those souls are part and parcel of God. So he's seeing within every form, within every species, he's seeing God and the individual soul, because there's actually two souls within all the animals, all the plants, all the birds, all the humans. That's the individual soul, us, the Jivatma, and then there's Paramatma, the super soul. So that's the highest level of seeing, to see God and see the individual soul everywhere, and to see that the individual soul is part and parcel of the Supreme Soul. So there's an intimate relationship between the individual soul and the Supreme Soul. So he's seeing the Supreme within everything and never hates. So he doesn't hate because obviously the devotee loves the Supreme. So, and the Supreme is everywhere. So how can you hate anything?
Mm.
I mean, like with that vision, I mean, God is within the dog. How can you hate a dog? God is within the elephant. How can you hate the elephant? God is within the Muslim. How can you hate the Muslim? God is within the Hindu. How can you hate the Hindu? God is within the Christian. How can you hate God? God is within the atheist. Even the person that doesn't believe God, God is within them. So you don't hate them also. So it doesn't matter what kind of body they have, but you're always seeing that God is within them. So then naturally, and you've developed the opposite kind of emotion, opposite feeling. You're following a process which is increasing your love for God. So, and now you're seeing God everywhere. So in that case, how is it possible to hate anything? Because you see God everywhere and you love God. You love God and God is everywhere. So you just see with love everywhere. You don't see anything with hatred because everywhere is God and you love God. So naturally you're seeing, your feeling is always a feeling of love, and never you're going to have a feeling of hatred. It's only when we forget God, then the hatred comes. As soon as we forget God, then the hatred comes. But as soon as we remember God and we love God, then it's not possible for there to be any hatred. Does that make sense?
Yes,
You
I
want to
mean,
say?
yeah, as you said, part and parcel. When you see every part and parcel, every soul is same. It's part of the Supreme. So when you
Yeah,
see that you are all equal, I mean, every living being is equal
yeah,
because they are part and each individual part of the Supreme. So
yeah,
there's no up and down. Don't think of anybody um,
yeah,
at the equal level. Oneness is
yeah.
there.
And logically also, if you love God, who is the whole, God is the whole, he's Advaita, he's absolute. So if you love the absolute whole, then naturally you love the part, right? And the example is a beautiful example. Do you love your whole body?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Of course. So you love your whole body, so automatically you're going to love your finger, right?
Mm.
Do you love the little finger and not the thumb?
No.
You love all of the fingers, right? And you love all your toes, and you love the nose, and you love your ears. It seems stupid, but it's important to understand this. If you love the whole, then you automatically you must love the parts, right? Does that make sense?
Yes,
How
yes.
can you love the whole object but not love, because the part is included? If you love the whole thing, which is God, because God is everything, God is everywhere, He's everything. How can you not love part of God?
Yes, yeah, I mean,
Logically, that's not,
logic.
it doesn't make sense. If you love the whole entirety of an object, you can't not love part of it.
Part of it,
You see what I mean?
yeah.
But if you don't love the whole, if you don't love the whole, then yes, it's possible you don't like the part. You understand? If you don't love the whole, then it's possible that you don't love part. But if you love the whole, definitely you love the part. Definitely. Definitely. Because the parts have an intimate relationship with the whole. The parts have an intimate relationship with the whole. And obviously the whole loves the parts. Like I said, like, I love my hand, I love my leg, everything like that. So we know for a fact that God loves his parts, right?
Yeah.
By that logic, right?
Yes,
So God loves all of his children. They're all part of him, right? So then with following that logic, I want to love God, right? I want to love God, the whole. So that means, therefore, I must love the parts. Because if I don't love the parts, what is God, whom I'm trying to love, going to think about me? You mean, let me explain in another way. Say I want to have a nice relationship with you. Now now without any argument, no possible. You love your wife. And definitely you're going to love your wife and you love your children, right?
yes.
And so I want to develop friendship with you. But if I hurt your wife, if I hurt your children, will that have any effect in our relationship?
Of course, yeah.
Of
It
course.
would.
So I'm trying to develop relationship with God. if I do anything against God's parts, how's that going to affect my relationship with Him? It will, negatively,
Negatively,
very
yes.
negatively.
I think that's,
So
yeah, very good.
therefore, I should think, I want to love God, but I don't just love God. I have to love everything. Actually, some people think, oh, you Hare Krishnas, you just love Krishna. You don't give a stuff about anyone else. That's complete, can't be more wrong. As a
Yes.
real Hare Krishna, he's trying to develop love for Krishna. He loves everything. He loves everything. If he doesn't love everything, his relationship with Krishna is not going to go very far. Because why? Because Krishna loves everything. Because everything is part of him.
Mm.
Krishna loves everything. You want to love Krishna, you have to love everything. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, definitely. I mean, yeah, that's example very good. I mean, if you're not loving whole, then if you're not loving Krishna, that means if you're not loving anybody else, like you said, animal or Hindu, Muslim, or everything. If you're not loving all because they are all part of it, then how can you love Krishna? I mean, your love for Krishna is not complete, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and
that's
Krishna's going to be thinking, you're not my devotee, you're an idiot, because you're saying you love me, but you don't love my children. It's like, I say, I love Narendra, but I kick Narendra's kid in the head. That doesn't make any sense. It's not, the relationship is cut off. Immediately, you're never going to look at my face ever again. So you can't love God and not love all of his parts.
so.
It just doesn't work.
I think that's where, I mean,
Isn't it?
uh, yeah,
Because
it's very
God
good. I
has an
mean,
intimate
only
relationship with
way to
every
love God
soul.
is to love everyone. That's what I think it is. Is that
Of course, it goes together. See, it goes together that you love God, you love everyone,
mm,
and you see God everywhere within everyone. So it's a very broad consciousness, and that's actually the meaning of Brahmana. Brahmana means one who has a very broad consciousness.
uh,
And the opposite to that is a word called kripana. Have you ever heard the word kripana before?
no,
Kripan. Kripan or
no,
kripana? A
no, I
kripana means very miserly person.
oh, okay.
Miserly person means very narrow-minded, very
Narrow-minded. Okay.
very narrow-minded, kripana. And brahmana means very broad-minded, very intelligent, very broad-minded. So we want to try to become like that, very broad-minded. So this is a very broad vision, to
Mm,
see God everywhere and to see the part and parcel of God everywhere. And because we love God and we're seeing him everywhere, there's no hatred in our vision whatsoever towards anyone. There's no hatred in our vision towards anyone. It and that doesn't mean necessarily that there's not going to be any fighting or argument or anything, but there's no hatred. Sometimes it might be required that, because obviously not everyone is seeing in this way. So some people are very materialistic and they may do crazy things. Like I said, some people are creepiners.
mm,
Like, for example, if some crazy person comes into your house and attacks your family, what will you do? You'll say, oh, I love everyone. I'm not
mm. I think it's
going to
breaking.
touch you.
Okay.
And you can go and beat up my family. No, you're not going to do that. You're going to protect your family
Mm,
naturally.
yeah.
But and you might punish that. 6 aggressors. One is someone that comes to burn your, and that, but this is your duty if you're and so forth. So it's your duty. So, but you're still having that vision that God is everywhere, that the soul's everywhere. But you know that some souls are acting in illusion and they do crazy things like burn your house down or try to hurt your family or whatever like that. So then you have to do your duty and protect your family and so forth. Does that make sense? I mean, it might seem contradictory how you can love everyone and like that, not hate anyone, but at the same time, you might have to act in what seems to be a defensive way, an aggressive way towards some. Or like, for example, if a snake, according to the scriptures, what you should do is you should kill that snake. It doesn't say, I love the snake, I love snake, Christ is in the snake, the soul in the snake, I love the snake, and you should just give it a hug or a kiss or anything like that. No, it says you should kill it. Because actually why did the soul take birth in a snake? Because it's a very envious person. Because a very envious person, dvaisa means envy. So they had full of dvaisa, envy. So because of that karma, bad karma, they take birth as a snake. And that's punishment. That's punishment. They take birth as a snake. And actually by killing that snake, you're releasing it from that punishment state. And then the soul will become elevated after that into a higher life form. So you're actually benefiting that snake by doing that. It doesn't mean that you hate the snake, but it means you have to act in the appropriate way with it. And that snake, if you leave it alive, it's probably going to bite someone, maybe your family member or yourself or some other person. It's going to bite someone, and that's obviously not good. So it's recommended both to stop people getting bitten, and both that the soul and the snake can progress, is to kill the snake. I myself, when I was at the farm in Australia, I've killed snakes, and because that's what was prescribed in the scriptures. And it's not, I don't hate snakes, but I have killed snakes. So it might seem contradictory, but it's actually isn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I think, I mean, yes, there will be always be, yeah, it's nature. I mean, the way the God has made the system probably
Yeah.
is, I think nothing is bad. I think in terms of, I mean, not nothing is bad, but if you have to think from, yeah, so you have certain duties by the law of nature, I think, as you said,
Yeah,
killing a
by the
snake
law of
is
nature.
not. Yeah, so
Yeah. I mean, like, even our main book, what's our main book? The Bhagavad Gita. Where is the Bhagavad Gita spoken?
in in the yuddha, in the war, basically. Yeah. So
Yeah. So what do they do in a war?
they kill the people.
Lots of killing.
Yeah.
Lots of killing. But without hatred. It can be done just as a matter of duty. Just as a matter of duty. I mean, did you know? I don't know if you read the whole Mahabharata and everything, but because it lasted 18 days. When the sun goes down, the fighting stops.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to fight after dark. This is duty. And then the soldiers from one side would go to the other side's camp and they would have dinner together and joke and talk and everything. Can you believe it? That's what they did. And then the next day, as soon as the sun comes up, you try to kill him. As soon as the sun comes up, you try to kill him. The night before, he was eating in your camp, and you were laughing together and joking and everything. It's amazing. It's a completely different way of thinking. It's just you do your duties. You have to do your duties.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that you hate the person, but you just have to do your duty.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's yeah, I understand what you're saying, but it's very difficult to do. To look everyone
Yeah,
in the, oh, this.
yeah,
Oh, no,
yeah,
I think that's a
yeah,
process. You have to, yeah. I
yeah.
think.
So I mean, it's saying here, don't see with hatred and that, but it's not that I'm also promoting a life without any violence, because actually that's not possible in the material world. It's not
Everything
possible.
has a
And
place, I guess.
yeah, everything has a place. So sometimes these things are required, but generally the principle is this, that we see God everywhere and the soul's everywhere, and we love everyone. But of course, like I say, if someone is not in that, there will obviously be other people that are not in that consciousness. It's very rare, actually. This kind of consciousness is very rare. So there'll be many others that aren't in this consciousness. And if those persons that are what we call, they're in Maya, they're an illusion, and they behave in an unacceptable way, then they have to be disciplined or chastised or punished. And that is for their benefit, and that is for the benefit of society. Actually, this whole battle of Kurukshetra was arranged by Krishna. Why did Krishna, God himself, arrange a battlefield to kill the bodies of many of his parts and parcels? Because like I said, God loves his part and parcels. So why would he arrange to kill all the bodies of so many soldiers who are his parts and parcels? Is because many of those soldiers had stepped over the line. They weren't doing their duty. They were very lusty and greedy and angry and not looking after the citizens, and they were exploiting the citizens, and they'd become a burden on the earth. So as you know that verse, I heard you say that verse. Yada yada hidamasya glanir bhavati bharata bhutanam adamasya, and then pratranaya sadunam vanashaya chatuskatam. So he comes to kill the demons, But of course, as we know, the soul is never killed, but just the bodies are killed. And that's releasing them from all their lust and greed and anger and hatred, and they can progress, especially dying in the presence of God. Because they died in the presence of God, they get moksha. They get elevated to the higher planets or back to the Vaikuntha. So it's actually for their benefit in that way. So that's what we've got to reconcile. That on one side, you love everyone, you see everyone like that part of the Lord, you see God everywhere. On the other side, if people are not following their duties and are behaving in a very bad way, then you have to try to discipline them or correct them or check them. We're not promoting like a hippie kind of philosophy that, it's just all love everywhere, love, and and then someone tries to kill your family, and and you don't do anything. I love them, go ahead and kill your family. No, you don't do that. Sometimes you may have to fight to protect, like the leader should protect his citizens, or the father has to protect his children, or like, for example, the Vaishya. Do you know what the Vaishya's duty is?
I think it's
Vaishya.
they are the businessmen and the farmers or something like that.
Yeah. So they deal with business, but also with protecting cows. So if some animal or some person comes to hurt the cows, they will try to protect the cows up to the point of giving their life. That's their duty. Their duty is to protect the cows. Means if a tiger comes to attack the cow, they've got to do something about that tiger. But their duty is to protect the cow. If a tiger attacks the cow, they will try to kill that tiger. But the God is within the tiger, and the soul is within the tiger, and they love God and the soul, but still God is saying that you have to do your duty. And in that case, it's to kill the tiger. And the same way, you're the father, you have to protect your children. Someone comes to kill your family, you have to kill them before they kill your family. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think it's as you said, it's not the hippie thing where you say everyone is but this is part of the law of the nature. You have to abide by that. If you're not,
Yes.
these things are part of nature, so you have to follow those. So it's not all like hippie land where everyone loves everyone. It's not like that, I guess. That's,
Yeah.
yeah, so I got that point.
Yeah, yeah. One time a reporter came to Prabhupada and said, what would you do if a man came to you with a gun to shoot you? What do you think? He'd say, oh, yeah, I'm the soul and not the body. You can't kill me. Okay, shoot me. No, he didn't say that. He said, I would take his gun. Prabhupada said, I would take his gun and shoot him. Now, we might be surprised by that. What kind of guru is that, he's going to protect his body and shoot someone? But no, because Prabhupada's saying that this body doesn't belong to me. It belongs to God. God has given me this body to spread Krishna consciousness. It's a very valuable body, and then I can't allow someone to take it away. This is God's property. So one of my duties is to protect God's property. So he's not thinking, oh, I'm the body, I don't want to die. No, don't kill me. I don't want to die. He's not thinking like that, afraid that he's going to die. But he's thinking, this body is rendering very valuable service to God. It's God's property, and it's doing service for God. My duty is to protect this property of God. So that's it seems externally like a materialistic person would do that too. He would try to take the gun and shoot the other guy, and the devotee would also take the guy's gun and shoot the other guy, but the reason is completely different. You see?
Yeah, yeah,
Externally it seems the same, but actually it's 360 degrees opposite in terms of internally what's going on.
what's going on? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay, so
Let's
let's
read.
read a bit of the purport.
Yep.
We've only got 5 minutes left, but we'll read a little bit of the purport.
One, yeah. This is a description of Mahabhagavata, the great personality who sees everything in relation to Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord's presence is realized in three stages. The Kanishta Adhikari is the lowest stage of realization. He goes to a place of worship, such as a temple, church, mosque, according to his religious faith, and worship there according to the scriptural injunctions. Devotee in this stage consider Lord to be present at the place of worship and nowhere else. They cannot ascertain who is in what position in devotional service, nor can they tell you who has realized the Supreme Lord. Such devotees follow a routine formulas and sometimes quarrel among themselves, considering one type of devotion better than the other. These Kanishta Adhikaris are actually materialistic devotees who are simply trying to transcend the material boundary to reach the spiritual plane. Those, okay.
Yeah, let's stop there, that paragraph, and we'll finish in a minute. But so Prabhupada's explaining here there's three levels of devotees. Now, in the translation, the Lord is talking about the top level, the highest level, and that's called Mahabhagavata. Mahabhagavata, or another name, there's another name for it, which isn't mentioned yet, but it probably will be, is Uttam Adhikari.
Yep,
Uttama. Uttama means topmost, so Uttam Adhikari. So, and then so Prabhupada's explaining in the beginning of the purport, there's three types of devotees, three levels of realization. So the topmost level of realization is explained in the translation. But then in the purport, his paragraph, he's elaborating about the lowest level first. So the translation explained the highest level, but he's going to explain all three. But then he's starting off explaining the lowest level of realization, and that's called Kanistadikari. So, and then the middle level is called Madhyam. So Madhyam means the middle. So that's Madhyam Adhikari. And then there's Uttamadhikari, or another name is Mahabhagavata. So, and Bhagavata means devotee, and Maha means great. So he's the greatest level of devotee, and then he's the one that sees God everywhere and the soul everywhere and everything like that. So what some of the characteristics of the Kanistha Adhikari? Another way of saying Kinestadikari is called neophyte devotee.
Oh,
Neophyte. So sometimes you'll read that word neophyte. So neophyte means still quite materialistic. It means, you're trying to become a devotee, but you're not really a devotee yet. But you're trying to become a devotee. So you've started the process, but you still have a lot of materialistic tendencies. And one very common symptom of the Kinestadikaris, they only really see God in the temple as the deity. They see God is in the temple, but they haven't developed their consciousness yet to like what the Mahabhagavat talks about, where they're seeing God in others and other people. They see God as on the altar, and they might see also God as in their guru. So they see God in two places. God is on the altar. There's Rama Bhagavan, Sita Ram, there's Lakshmi Narayan, Radha Krishna. So they see them, Nrsimha Bhagavan, they see them on the altar, the deity. And we read about the Archa Vigraha, the deity. So they see God as the deity, and they also see their guru as God. But they don't see that their fellow devotees is also God is there. And even in the non-devotees, God is there. And even in the animals, God is there. So God, they haven't reached that level of realization to understand that, yeah, God is in the temple, yes. God is in the guru, yes. But he's also everywhere else also. So they don't have that level yet. They've realized the beginning is to have faith and respect that God is in the deity and your God is in your guru, but they haven't progressed beyond that. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely, yeah. So I can relate.
Yeah. And that's not
I
bad. I mean, that's
yeah,
definitely the
no, I mean
start.
that's the start.
That's the
I mean that's
start.
the start. Yeah,
That's the start. But yeah, don't finish there. Don't finish there.
yeah, no, yeah,
That's the start. See, if you get stuck on that level, what's the problem with being on that level? The problem with being on that level is that you're not respecting other souls within different bodies. So there is a chance you may make some offenses. If you disrespect them and make offenses, like I said, I'm trying to love you, but if I disrespect your wife, your children, I basically cut off my relationship. So that's the danger of Kanista Adhikari. I love God on the altar in the temple. I love God and my guru, but I don't love the neighbors, and I don't love the other devotees. And sometimes I criticize them and blaspheme them. And sometimes I might push them around and shove them down a bit, and I gossip about them, and what does God think about all that behavior? He doesn't like it at all. So basically, you put your own bhakti down the plug hole, down the gurgler, or at least you put a brake on it. You're not really going to advance if you start to act in an offensive or disrespectful way to other living entities, because like I said, God loves everyone. So if you misbehave, badly towards others, then you might still be chanting Hare Krishna and reading Bhagavad Gita and everything, but if you're hurting others, then it's like +1 -1 +1 -1 +1 -1. You never get anywhere. It's like taking a bath and then throw mud on yourself, and then take a bath and throw mud on yourself. That's what an elephant does. That's the
yes,
example. Elephant takes a good bath and then immediately comes out, it throws dirt all over itself. So you never really get anywhere. So that's the problem with the Kanistadi curry. If they're not gonna go higher, they're just gonna develop a offensive mentality towards others. And the tendency is, like, I'll give you an example of Kanistadikari. My guru is the best guru, because he's my guru, he's the best guru. And you put other gurus down even. And that's really bad. That if you go around saying my guru is better than your guru and like that, then you pretty much, ruining your spiritual life. So the tendency of Kanistadikari, they think they're the best devotee. They're actually the lowest devotee, but when you're the lowest devotee, you tend to think you're the best devotee. And what we're going to probably read later is that Mahabhagavat, which we read in the translation, who says God everywhere, the soul everywhere. He's the highest devotee, but what does he think? What do you think he thinks about himself?
I'm nothing. That's
He
what he
thinks
thinks.
I'm nothing. He thinks, I'll tell, this is mind-blowing. This is completely mind-blowing. The topmost devotee, the most elevated being in the universe, he thinks everyone is a devotee except for me.
I remember a
Except for
joke
me.
on that. Sorry.
What's that?
Yeah, I remember a joke on that. Somebody told me that this padre was actually in front of God in the church, and there was a guy who was cleaning the floors. So the padre was saying, "God, I'm nothing. I'm nothing. You are everything." And the guy who was actually cleaning up, maybe he came up and he started saying that, "God, I'm nothing. I'm nothing." And then this padre says, "Look at him. I mean, that's kind of a thing he's saying. He's not in right knowledge, saying he's not treating him equal. He's saying he cannot say that, God, I'm nothing. So I mean, that's kind of a hypocrisy is there in terms of that person that he's not. I mean, that says he's not realized. I mean, basically, if you don't understand, even if you're a padre.
Yes.
So I mean, yeah, that kind of a thing. Yeah. So I think, as I said, Mahabhagavata, they think I'm nothing, basically.
They're very humble. They're very humble. Very humble. And the Kanistadikari's tendency is they're very proud, very proud. And but the biggest problem with pride is not just that feeling that you're the best. The problem with the pride is that as soon as you abuse or put down anyone else, that's the beginning of your downfall. Just your pride that, I'm the best, I'm the greatest. I mean, that's not very good, but that's not what really ruins you. What really ruins you with that mentality is you're thinking, I'm better than you. You are nothing. You are like blah. And, and you get either you just verbally offensive or even worse than that, physically you do that. And then, or even mentally, you're thinking bad. He's just no good, or, he's a pig or he's useless or whatever. So just thinking bad or saying bad or physically hurting someone, then immediately God doesn't like that, obviously, and your spiritual life is completely. And what normally happens to such a kanista is they lose a taste for the whole bhakti process. They lose a taste in chanting. They don't feel any enjoyment from chanting anymore. They lose a taste in hearing about Krishna. They don't want to hear anymore. They lose a taste in the satsanga, sadhusanga. They don't want to be with devotees. They lose a taste in eating prasadam. Means they just eat anything. They don't bother having prasadam. And basically, Krishna's unhappy with someone. He takes away all the enjoyment in the bhakti process, and the person, they themselves go away. Daddy. The kanista themselves automatically, anyway, yeah, sorry, our time's up. I better shut up.
I think, no, it's all right. I think, it's time for you too. But we'll just start. I mean, it's already, we are past the time. I think you should.
Yeah, but it's very interesting subjects and very relevant. Because, I mean, of course, we're all starting off when we begin in that kanista platform. But the thing is, we want to try to move through that as quickly as possible. And it's going to talk about Madhyam, the second one, which is much better. Yes, we're going to move through.
No, Kanishta also it's because of the lack of the knowledge, isn't it? It's not complete knowledge, so they are just.
Yeah.
So they might go for more knowledge, or they might not, as you said, they might not understand and properly, and then they do aparadhas, and then you go down, basically. Or some of them will go up, some of them go down. Yeah. So it really depends on how much knowledge you want to, how much inquisitive you are, and how you get knowledge, I guess. I mean, that's what I think fair, probably. Yeah. Anyway.
So this knowledge we want, that God is everywhere, The soul is everywhere. We have to respect. Don't get puffed up. Don't get proud. You have to respect that God is everywhere, the soul is everywhere, and God loves everyone. So don't hurt anyone unnecessarily. If it's not your duty to do something against them, then just leave them alone. Don't hurt anything. And and we get this knowledge that pride comes before the fall. Have you heard that saying? Pride comes before the fall.
I think so. Yeah, yeah, I
It's
understand.
a
I have
very
never
old
heard, but I
saying.
can understand that. What? Yeah,
Pride comes before the fall. You first of all you become proud, then you fall down. Why do you fall down? Because you make offenses, apparatus, and then God gives you a boot. He kicks you in the backside, and you're off. So that's the thing. We have to be very careful with pride. Pride is a big stumbling block. So the best protection against pride is the opposite, which is humility. I am nothing. I'm very small. I'm very insignificant. I'm only here because of Bhagavan's Kripa, because Guru Kripa, Bhagavan Kripa, I am able to do something. Otherwise, I am completely useless. Nothing I can do. So always be very humble. And the devotees saved my life. Prabhupada saved me. That's the only reason why I'm here.
I think
So
that's the
always be
truth.
very humble.
That's the truth. I mean, that's the
And
truth. What
that
a,
is the truth.
yeah,
It's not a
yeah,
made up emotion. That's the
yeah.
fact.
It's a
We're
fact.
only here because someone helped me out of the gutter. Otherwise, I'm still in the gutter. If someone didn't pick me up, I'd still be in the gutter. Just a full-on materialist, running after just nothing. So that's a fact, So we just have to be truthful, and when we are truthful to ourselves, we'll always be humble. It's only when we forget the truth that we become so arrogant. It's all because of me, and I did this, and I. It's not the fact.
Mm.
Anyway,
I was,
something for us to think
yeah, I
about.
was reading. I was reading. I think I went ahead and just reading the mantra 11 or something. There's 18 points
18,
there.
yeah,
One of the point you just said about aparadhas. You don't
yeah,
hurt anybody by your mouth, mind, and body, or something like that.
body,
So
yeah,
that's. I think it's part. It's. I think God's law. I mean, it's like
yeah,
nature's law, God's law.
yeah,
If you do that, it's gonna come and bite you back. I mean, that you'll
yes,
fall down
yes,
basically.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, I think I've taken you more time. Thank you
Yeah, it
very
was
much.
so
It was
nice
very interesting.
to talk together this week, as
Yeah.
usual. It's always good.
Yeah, no, it's very invigorating. I mean, just keep